there is some place or a platform which might help them jumpstart their career into something else entirely.
Absolutely. So now even in colleges, if you look at it,
Yeah,
entrepreneurship,
yeah.
like starting off is one accepted way of, graduating from school. Placement nahi hua, it used to be a big, stigma associated with it. But now, if you tell them that, hey, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, there's a lot of support from your ecosystem around you.
Hi everyone, welcome to Startup Stories India by Pay. Today we have a very special guest from Aurm, Mr. Ganesh Balakrishnan, who's the co-founder of this organization. So if I may ask you to introduce yourself, Mr. Ganesh, could you please just go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself and also about the organization?
Sure. Hi, Dhruv. Great to be here with Legal Pace Podcast, and yeah, hope to have a great conversation today. My name is Ganesh Balakrishnan. I'm the co-founder and head of marketing at Aurm. At Aurm, we build uh, strong room and safe deposit locker facilities, vaults, um, in partnership with banks and real estate companies, so that customers can store their jewelry and valuables and high value items like documents and property papers and stuff like that, in a safe space which is very close to where they live, and it is convenient to
Mhm.
access 24/7 365. So you can come and access it anytime. You're not restricted by any timings or any uh, proximity issues, right? Everything is very close to you. So the idea is to make it extremely convenient, extremely secure, and give customers a joyous experience when they're accessing that. Right? So that is the
So I think this would be my first time talking to someone that's weird because I think so far I've only seen it in movies that that there's a same designer and people are actually trying to break into it and everything. But yeah, I mean it's wonderful to actually know that there is actually someone who does it and they're very passionate about it. So as a co-founder of Aurum, what inspired you to establish the company and how does Aurum differentiate itself in the competitive landscape of wealth management?
Sure. So the idea of Aurum actually came from our brainstorming sessions with MyGate founders. I don't know if you know MyGate, but MyGate is Gate, yeah, community security at the gate solution, right? So if you are in a residential community, you can actually use MyGate for any visitors who are coming to access or any delivery boys who are coming to your apartment, right? So our idea stemmed from a brainstorming session with the MyGate founder and the MyGate core team, with a question as to what can we do to make lives of people in residential communities easier, right? What can we do to add value to their everyday lifestyle? And one of the things that we realized is that uh, the availability of safe deposit lockers near a lot of these new communities that are coming up in the top cities in India, where people are moving for job prospects and people have wealth, people are buying homes in residential communities, apartment complexes, high rises, and so on. Right, the density of homes in these spaces is very high. There are almost 30 million households by 2030 that are going to come up inside residential gated communities. Right? But if you look at the availability of bank lockers in these spaces, it's very, very limited. Right? There are less than 2.5 million lockers available for these 30 million households, right? Because banks don't set up more than one or two branches in every pin code. But if you look at homes, you will have more than a lakh homes in one pin code like this. Take Gurugram, for example. Take in Bangalore, take Whitefield or Electronic City, for example. Right? There are many, many, many residential complexes, and there are not enough. So, how do we solve the problem of safe deposit storage? Is the question that we started thinking about. And when we spoke to more than 1,000 customers in this space, one thing that we realized is that it is not just about availability. Right, as I said, more than 90% of the people don't even get a locker. But even if they get a locker with banks, accessibility also becomes a problem because banks are open only during weekdays. Whereas when you need your jewelry and ornaments and stuff like that, that is typically during festive season or weekends when all the functions, social events are there. And during that time, the bank is not open. Right? So access becomes a problem. you're typically restricted by 12 to 3 p.m. on a weekday, and because it is a little far away from home, you have to depend on taking half a day off at work, right? Typically, women don't feel very comfortable going there alone, so they have to depend on their spouse to accompany them. There are a lot of issues like that pop up. Right? We
Mhm.
said, hey, is there a much more elegant way to solve this problem? And that's how we started.
Right.
Right? And that's how our
What are the core strategies and the principle behind Aurum's focuses or focus on safeguarding and unlocking and also growing wealth? Because from our conversation so far, I could understand you do cater to a vast clientele, starting from individuals also to banks. So you basically make small safes also to bigger industrial standard which bank might be requiring. So how does
yes.
Aurum's focus goes about the safeguarding and unlocking and also growing of wealth for these clientele?
Yeah. So our idea is to partner with banks as well as real
Mhm.
estate developers, right? So what we
Right.
do, for example, if I take an example of a bank, what we do is we approach banks which are in the vicinity but don't have locker services to offer, right? They don't have enough lockers to offer to all the community
Yes, not
residents
a
in the
lot of them
neighborhood.
do, right?
Right? So what we tell them is just like you have your ATM, right?
Mhm.
Earlier, in order to withdraw cash, you had to go into the bank and wait for the cashier, give a deposit or whatever, withdrawal slip, and then withdraw the money. Now everything is automated. It's an ATM that is available 24/7 that customers can access regardless of whether the bank is open or not. Right? Just like that, we can actually set up the entire strong room and the vault and secure systems and access systems. It is completely automated, so customers can come and
Right.
access it anytime they want. And it can be right next to the bank. Or if the banks want to set it up closer to the locality inside the residential community, we can do that as well. Right? So we partner with banks
Mhm.
and try to enable those kind of locker facilities availability for residents. If it's a real estate developer, typically if they take up new projects, they build a clubhouse with a lot of amenities, right? So we partner with them to offer locker services as an amenity right from day one in the clubhouse inside the residential community, right? So that is the
Right.
kind of a B2B2C kind of a model that.
Understood. Understood. Now, as I understand, you have a vast amount of experience when it comes to marketing. And I think you have more than 20 years of experience, which is actually quite considerable in any sphere or any field. So, how has your experience helped build or shape or into a compelling wealth company, and particularly in terms of the strategy and the market positioning that Aurum has now gained?
Yeah. So, in terms of safeguarding people's wealth, right, think about it. You are actually storing your life's possessions and assets, which are very, very precious, with a company. Usually, people store it with banks, and because the trust factor is built with banks very, very deeply, because they've been managing your money for such a long time, for generations. Right? Now, if a private company like Aurum is coming in and saying, "Hey, we will safeguard your wealth for you," there is a lot of trust that we need to build within the consumer's mind, right? So, as a marketer, my biggest challenge is to build that brand trust and credibility, so that people can actually, feel comfortable, giving us their uh, valuables to safeguard. My journey as a consumer marketer through mobile payments solutions that we built called Momo, and then an e-commerce solution. I worked with a pan-India e-commerce unicorn, building out their entire merchant side infrastructure. So the merchants' businesses were dependent on us, right? So building out their entire business from scratch. And then lately, my journey as a consumer brand founder with Flatheads, which was a footwear brand that we had launched almost 4 years ago. The entire learning for me was around making a brand promise, getting customers, gaining customers' trust by talking about it the right way and communicating the right things that customers want in terms of solving their problems and solving their needs. And then once the product is experienced by them, just showing them that whatever we promised is something that we have delivered, right? And that's how the brand credibility builds, right? So a lot of that experience that I've had over the last 15 years, 20 years of my life has come into picture here to build that trust and credibility with the brand. So number one, you cannot overpromise things that you cannot deliver. You have to be very, very honest, and you have to be very, very frank, and uh, you have to come across as very authentic, right? And you have to be upfront about any, you cannot be not transparent. You cannot be open. You have to be very, very clear in what you say. And once you tell something, once you promise something, you have to over deliver on that, right? So if I say that Aurm is one of the safest places to safeguard your wealth, Aurm is one of the most convenient, vaults that you can experience with 24/7 service. All of that has to be brought to life very, very clearly, right? Where customers can actually come in. For example, you go to a wedding reception and you come back at 3 a.m. at night. You should be able to access your vault, go keep your jewelry, and then go to bed, right? So that is the use case that we need to demonstrate, and we need to prove that, it is so convenient and it is so easy and available to access anytime, right? So all those things, making the promise, delivering on the promise, and then highlighting the fact that we have actually done uh, uh, something that delights customers is the entire journey of building a brand, right? So that experience of 15 years has actually culminated in this experience. I am still learning, of course. Nobody is an expert in branding and marketing, right? But yes, there is a lot of learning when we actually talk to customers. There's a lot of learning when we put a solution out there and get their reactions, right? So those are the things that we are learning by doing right now.
So, I mean, as a growth professional at Legal K, even, we are also tasked with, undertaking certain marketing strategies, which can either be performance marketing based to cater to the mass, get their attention very quickly, make them understand the product. Sometimes maybe using social media platforms to spread awareness and maybe, hope to get enough traction to get some interaction flowing with the possible stakeholders. What are some of those strategies which you have used in your experience or gained in your experience and which you have implemented here at Aurum to actually instill such confidence in your customer base?
Yeah, cool. So if you look at our product, um, we are a very physical infrastructure space, right? It is not a virtual app in which you can actually do a lot of transactions. It's a physical space where you have to come and interact with the product, and you need to experience what is happening. So given that our a lot of the marketing that we are doing is based on ground activations and face to face meetings with customers. Customers will feel comfortable when they actually deal with a real person, saying, you know what, I am there. We have armed forces veterans in our company who handle our security risk and operations. When they actually meet those people in our founding team is when they realize that, hey, you know what, these guys know what they're doing. They are the experts in their field. They've done this before, and hence it's okay to trust them. So a lot of our work is actually on ground and physical. It is not really digital. Um, and along with that physical activation and conversations, we also have a lot of brand awareness kind of initiatives, which happen on either PR through mainstream media, where we talk about the proposition, we talk about how safety is something that is paramount these days, given the number of thefts are increasing, and how Aurum actually solves those with state-of-the-art technology. So along with PR, there is also LinkedIn, which we use because LinkedIn is a professional platform, right? So you can talk about it you can come across very honest and credible when you communicate on platforms like LinkedIn. Podcasts like these help a lot as well, where you can actually go into the depth of the story of how this came about and how it can actually build credibility with the audience. So all those things are at the brand awareness level, and then at the local activation level, we do a lot of in-person meetings and activations, kiosks, appointments, and then demos, product demos at every site. Right? So that's the combination that we do. We don't do a lot of Facebook marketing and Instagram marketing at all because we are not a fashion brand, right? We are a serious brand. So our communication is more around PR, mainstream media, newspaper coverage, YouTube channel coverage, and podcast coverage, guys.
So now you mentioned that you do cater a lot to B2B and B2C market. So what are some key insights that you have gained regarding effectively reaching out and engaging diverse customer segments in the industry? And how does Aurum leverage these insights to attract and retain clients?
So, one or two insights about the B2B market when it is banks and
Hmm.
real estate providers, real estate developers. Um, they are large institutions with a lot of processes in place, right? And if you have to qualify to be a partner with them, you need to have your processes and compliances and all the data protection policies and stuff in place right up front. You cannot go and say, hey, you know what, I'm in the process of doing it. That doesn't work anymore. So from day one of the biggest learnings has been build your processes, build your quality certification, build your documentation, build your privacy policies, build your firewalls and data protection practices very, very strongly. On the technology side, even with our watts, right? So what we do is we have intrusion detection systems, we have surveillance cameras, uh, right, which records a lot of uh, footage as well. All those things, storing it privately, securely, uh, maintaining people's confidence in the system is very paramount. So even before launch, we are already ISO compliant. We are already complying with and exceeding all the standards that are there for strong rooms as well as data security as well as information security and the vault security as well. Right. So all these things have to be in place before you actually approach the large players. That is one. The other learning with real estate developers has been building the right models, business models for partnership is critical, right? So, will you have a revenue sharing agreement? Who will own the customer? Who will run the operations? Who will take care of maintenance? How are you going to look at recurring revenue? Right? How do you, if there is a customer issue, who is the one who's supposed to solve it? A lot of those things have to be answered upfront, right? Because developers will build, they are in charge of the infrastructure, but then the service layer on top has to be yours. So how do you make sure that handshake comes together very clearly? That is one big learning of the B2B space. B2C, of course, I talked about building the trust and building the credibility is bad. Right? So these are all the key learnings that we have right from day one. And since I've worked in mobile payments as well as in e-commerce before, mobile payments comes with a lot of trust, right? If you're creating a wallet, we were doing this in 2014 when prepaid instruments like wallets were, the order of the day. During that time, if you have to get customers to load money into your wallet, right, it's a trust building exercise. So there is a lot of things that you need to do in terms of certified by PCI DSS compliant. All those things you need to start keeping markers, trust markers in place. Similarly, in Aurum, what we do is, for example, every authentication when a customer accesses the vault, uh, there are multiple factors of authentication. There is biometric authentication, there is dynamic OTP authentication, as well as there is a physical lock on the wall, on the safe box of theirs, which only they can open. That even we don't have access to. Right. So all those are trust markers. We weigh the safe every time the access is done. Right. So we know exactly how much the weight is, and if there is any discrepancy, then immediately the customer also gets to know. Similarly, if a joint account holder wants to access the safe, you also get a notification. If two people, you and your family member, have access to the safe, every time somebody is going to access the safe, you will get a notification, right? So immediately you know that there is somebody, accessing your safe, and who is it? And there are timestamps and there are access histories as well. So a lot of that has been built into the product from day one to make sure, because we cannot do an MVP and say, hey, we will improve upon. This is a product where you have to get it right and perfect the first time. So all those
Right,
things
right,
come into play in
right.
this.
Sure. So, from a conversation so far, it seems that banks and real estate are two of the most important collaborations that Aurum actively seeks.
Yes.
So, how do you think these partnerships contribute to enhancing the overall customer experience and also the service offerings that Aurum gives out to these people?
Um, there is a relationship that both the real estate builders as well as banks have with the customer already, right? The customer is already, giving their wealth in your bank account. They're already keeping their wealth in the bank account. There's a regular relationship and a transactional relationship there as well. High-end customers also have wealth management accounts there, so there is an investment relationship as well. And if you look at real estate builders, it's their the homes that they want to build, the places that they want to stay. There's an emotional bond as well with the homes that the real estate developers are building. So already there is a relationship that exists, and we are coming in and saying we will provide a lot more delight and value to your everyday lifestyle by safeguarding your assets. Right. So we are building upon that relationship that the partner already has. Right? So that is very critical. At the same time, if you look at our offerings, why it is interesting for real estate developers and banks. Number one, it elevates uh, the perception of the community, the residential community that the developer is building, because this is a very premium amenity. It's not very easy to get it. So it's a very exclusive amenity that not every builder is able to provide. Right. So like people have been used to gyms and swimming pools and spas, but what is the other thing that really adds value? And this is one thing that definitely adds value and elevates it. So they are actually able to add a premium to their society prices because they are able to offer this as an amenity. Number one. From a bank's perspective, it is a very these are people typically who want lockers. The people who want lockers are people who have the wealth to protect, right? Uh, so, and by the way, India has the largest private holding of gold in the world. We hold 12% of the world's gold, almost 25,000 tons of gold in private Indian households, which is more than the gold reserves of countries put together. You know what I mean? And we are the largest. India and China are head to head in terms of gold consumption year on year, right? Now, given that, if a bank wants to attract a high-end customer, high net worth individual to come and become a customer of the bank, there is a lot of banks out there. There's a lot of competition. So why will they choose your bank over another? And locker becomes one critical element that you can actually offer as an added advantage to your savings account and investment account that you hold with them. So
Right,
in that
right,
sense, it's a signal of a premium customer
right,
acquisition channel for the banks.
right. So, I mean, just a question before you were mentioning about the automated locker retrieval system that Aurum has. So, I mean, I'm quite fascinated by when you mentioned it. So, how does this technology actually work? And how is it contributing to, in order to make the process of accessing valuables more convenient for customers?
Sure. I wish I could play the video on the
Yeah.
podcast itself, but our video is available on www.aurm.in. You can go and check out the
Maybe we
video
can
how it
add
works.
it. We'll try to add it. But yeah, for
Oh,
the time
perfect.
being, I would.
I will
Yeah,
send that to you separately. But let me
sure,
explain.
sure. Yes.
Um, so the way Aurm works is what we have done is we have separated the storage area where all the valuables are kept from the
Hmm.
access area where the customer comes and accesses it. Right?
Okay.
Think of it like essentially like an ATM, but
Hmm.
it looks like a dressing room. So when a
Right.
customer walks into the room, it looks like there is a chair, a table, a comfortable place to sit with mirrors where you can try on your jewelry and stuff like that. And there is a table in front of you in which the locker appears. So you do your authentication, walk into the room, you do a second level authentication by picking the locker that you want. And once you do your authentication inside the room, there is a storage area separately, which is completely, inside a strong room, and you don't walk into that storage area at all. There is
Hmm.
a robot there that picks out your locker and brings it,
Okay.
your safe box, brings it to the access area where you are. So it comes inside the table, and the table there's a slider that opens up inside the table, and your box comes out. Right? It's almost presented to you like a jewelry chest.
Right.
There's a nice,
It
moment
is.
of
It is.
happiness when it comes.
Right. Right.
And then it's like that the ATM puts out your cash, right? That's the moment
Hmm.
of happiness that you see. Similarly, the
Right.
box comes out, so you can access it. You can take your
Hmm.
time with your valuables. So there is a slot booking facility in the app, in the Aurm app,
Right.
where
Right.
you can book a 20-minute or a half an hour slot. Once
Yeah.
you go and access it, nobody else can come into the room. The room is locked. So you are in their very private space. You can access
Hmm.
all your jewelry, take your time with your documents, everything. Once you're done, you put it back in and hit the deposit button, and the box is taken away by the robot and deposited back. And then you can
Right.
walk out of the room. Right? So that is
Wow.
the experience. So
Wow. I
there
mean,
is no human intervention from our side.
right.
It is
Just by
completely
listening to it, I mean, it sounds very fascinating. It's almost like a very secure and niche closet space for a person's jewelry and valuable items.
pretty much. That's the idea. right? And
Right.
because we have isolated that area, the storage area outside,
Right.
hence
Right.
what we can actually do with that storage area is we can build it as secure as possible. So we have,
Mm-hmm.
7 layers of steel reinforced concrete. And in the strong room, on top of that, there is active surveillance with cameras and a network operating center with motion detection that we
Right.
monitor. On top of that, there is intrusion detection and warning systems. We have a surveillance patrol team with armed surveillance. In case there is any intrusion attempt, immediately
Right.
alarms go off and they can come and check what's going on. Right? So
Right.
a lot
Right.
of those things become very critical and very state of the art. We can make it very state of the art because customers are
Right.
walking in.
Right. Right. That's quite amazing, to be honest. So the vision to install Aurum in numerous societies within a short time frame is, I think that's what your ambition is right now. So what are the strategies that are in place to achieve this goal, and what are the challenges that you are anticipating might, come along the way?
Sure. Um, See, when you are looking at aggressive growth, when you're looking at doing this, and it's a hardware system, right? It's an entire
Right.
strong room that you install with robos and stuff like that.
Right.
There is a lot of upfront investment that goes in, as well as there's a lot of upfront effort that goes in. I cannot
Right.
just launch a app pan India on day one. It is something
Right.
that you have to go, locality
Right.
by locality and partner by partner. Uh, so it is essential for us to build a playbook, and that's what we have built right now, right? From day one, how do you sign up societies? How do you sign up banks? How do you sign up real estate providers? Once the partnership is done, how many,
Yeah.
we identify a real estate space, we immediately take those dimensions. What we have done is we have completely modularized the manufacturing, right? And we have, we've built it from the ground up ourselves, right? So we have a lot of our factories where we manufacture those panels.
Okay.
As soon as the order is there, within 10 days to 15 days, the entire setup gets ready.
Right.
And we start doing customer acquisitions with our
Mhm.
partner together.
Right.
And within 20 days of signing the agreement and getting the space to put up the locker, we can actually go live, right? So we have
Right.
fine
Right.
tuned this entire process, and with
Mhm.
our supply of hardware,
Mhm.
integration of technology, and building the entire customer experience. This entire thing takes, so
Right.
20
Right.
days now. Hopefully, we can get it down to 15 days very soon, right? So
Mhm.
effectively, I can do one installation every 15 days, and these can be in parallel as well, right? So I can go into multiple societies in multiple cities.
Right. Right.
So playbooking is essential, ensuring that the processes are set and
Mhm.
uh, the way the entire process, the project is managed is something that is well trained people in our team who have
Right.
handled operations at scale
Right.
are the right people in our core team as well, who can both get partnerships going as well as get the installation and operations going. So it's a
Right.
combination of a very good team, very good training, and a very robust process and playbook that we have put together.
Right. So you mentioned that you have a different kind of collaboration with different banks and real estate companies or moguls who are interested in availing your facilities. So could you delve into the revenue stream that Aurum envisions, and particularly the partnership with bank and real estate brands, and how do these collaborations benefit both the parties involved in our transaction?
Sure. So there are multiple ways possible. We actually have flexible options that are available. We can do complete end to end, where identification of the space, building the entire strong room facility, and building, owning, and operating the entire vault facility along with the customer facing interactions. We can do that entire end to end space as well, right? All the way. But if there is an existing space available where we can, where they can help us build the strong room, then the cost structures are, flexible there. If they are
Right.
taking part of the cost, then we will have a better share of revenue with them. If we are building it end to end, so then the revenue sharing is more skewed towards us maintaining it and they being a partner of us, right? So there are multiple models in terms of revenue sharing, in terms of profit sharing, as well as in terms of cost sharing models that are possible. It entirely depends on what they already have and what how far they are willing to come in terms of the handshake, right? So uh, it could be a cost sharing at the infrastructure level plus a licensing kind of a model that we could do. or it could be a complete build on operate from our end, turnkey, with a revenue share model. Right? So
Right.
all the
Right.
models are possible. That's how we kept it.
So, I mean, I think one of the challenges that you might have also faced is addressing the traditional bank loggers, which the banks usually provide. And Aurum not aims to provide not just security, but also accessibility and a luxurious experience. So, how does the company ensure that the old school way of accessing a locker is seamlessly integrated into its services which they're offering right now?
So this is not something that will be integrated into an existing locker facility. This will be a
Right.
new facility that will be set up.
Hmm.
Right? That we are very clear.
Right.
Because the existing facility that they have is designed very, very differently, as you said, right? It's a little more old school. We will have to build the entire thing upfront, right? From the ground up. So when we talk to banks, what we say is, hey, if you have a room available, we will need the room completely empty shell, and we will put up our infrastructure inside. That's the way it works.
Right.
Right? If the rooms are already strong room enabled, which means the walls already have reinforced concrete, then we just come in and we put our entire robo facility and the rack facility inside. Right? So that's how it works. Our lockers are not the same as how the bank lockers function. So we have to
Okay.
put our own racks and our own locker
Mhm.
boxes that we have to put in. So that's the way it works.
Understood.
So
Understood.
there is no retrofitting in existing facilities there.
Okay, okay, that's wonderful. Now, I know that the tagline of Aurum is a safe space, right? So, what are the strategies and initiatives that Aurum has in place to adjudicate uh, or basically spread awareness and incentivize individuals to transition from these traditional bank lockers to Aurum's innovative offering?
So there is no transition involved. As I said, more than 90% of the people don't even have access to a locker. They don't have lockers
Understood.
available, right? So
Right.
typically what they're doing is they're using a home safe where,
Mhm.
they're keeping it inside their almirah somewhere, or
Right.
they are keeping it with their parents or in-laws in their hometown,
Right.
which is not
Right.
accessible at all, right? So
Right.
in
Right.
that
Right.
sense, we are actually getting into a market that is completely, green space right now. There is no existing product that is available to solve the problem of the new people who are getting into these gated communities. So we are not really worried about transitioning people from the bank lockers to our services. It is more, if there is an availability of something like this, which is highly secure and very convenient to access in your neighborhood, is it something that you will be willing to take or not? So it's a fresh uh, acquisition as far as we are concerned. So the proposition that we are trying to be better than is the home safe, and that is very very
Right.
clear, right? I mean, a professionally managed secure vault is definitely
Mhm.
much better than what a home safe is in terms of security and safety. So yeah, in that sense, we don't see this as a market replacement, but it's a completely new market category that we are defining.
Right. So being a trailblazer completely.
Pretty much, yeah. This is in fact in residential spaces and in near residential localities. This is
Mhm.
probably the first time anybody is doing it in the country, right?
Right.
The
Right.
fully
I
automated
mean,
system that we have presented.
that's wonderful. I mean, so for our listeners and viewers, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but we know that you have been on Shark Tank. So, could you just tell us a bit about your experience on Shark Tank and what were your key learnings? And additionally, we also noticed that a significant boost in Flathead sales happened post the show.
Yeah.
And during your pitch, you had mentioned stop all your businesses to the sharks. So, what was your reasoning behind that decision, and did it have any negative connotation on the impact on your journey at Shark Tank? So, just how was your entire experience? I mean, if you could just tell us for our viewers.
Sure. So we had gone to Shark Tank from Flatheads during the end days, right?
Right.
When the business wasn't doing too well. I mean, everybody who was seeing the episode will know what I'm talking about. We actually went. We launched 4 months before the pandemic, and then we went through a very
Right.
turbulent 2.5 years of trying to
Right.
keep the business afloat and survival
Yes.
when
Right.
people were not going to work. We were making our proposition was great shoes for work, everyday shoes for work. Right?
Right.
So people were not going to work at all during the pandemic. So that
Right.
proposition was quite
Right.
difficult to bring to the ground.
Mhm.
So when we were going to Shark Tank, we were already pretty much out of cash in the business, and we were we had kept the business on pause.
Right.
The conversation that I had with the sharks was very heartening from a perspective that in the beginning it felt like an entrepreneur pitching to a shark, right? The way most Shark Tank pitches go. But very quickly, when they started listening to the story and understanding
Yeah.
what was going on, every one of them also is an entrepreneur, right? They have built their
Yes.
businesses.
Yes.
So that entrepreneur, the struggles that an entrepreneur goes through, and the kind of things that happen to the business, which brings it to the brink of almost shutting down. Every one of them has experienced it, right?
Right. Right.
Vinita talked about it. Aman talked about it, saying, "Hey, you know what? I shut it down. I did something else, and then 2 years later, I came back and started boat again."
Right.
So those situations they have encountered as an entrepreneur, where in real life, they know firsthand how it
Mhm.
feels to have that kind of a survival situation on hand. Uh, Once that kind of conversation started happening, it was more entrepreneurs talking to each other and sharing their experiences and
Right.
empathizing with each
Right.
other on what the journey was. That was very
Right.
heartening to see. And when
Right.
the episode
Right.
actually aired, so many people actually, came together and said, you know what, this is the real story of entrepreneurship. Uh,
Right.
that was very, very, uh, motivational, if you will.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
because that was the first time that the real story of entrepreneurship came out. Otherwise, typically what people see is the hype of funding cycles and VCs
Yes.
and
Yes.
unicorns.
Yes.
And on the other end, businesses dying, businesses bleeding a lot of money,
Right.
layoffs.
Right.
These are the only stories that get highlighted. People don't talk
Right.
about what it takes to build a business, right?
Yes.
That
Yes.
that resonated very well with the audience at large, right? So that was very
Mhm.
heartening to see. And because of that, we were able to bring Flatheads back from the brink after the episode
Right.
aired.
Right.
Right then, there's an apparel brand called Stitch which took over the brand
Okay.
Flatheads, and they have
Right.
relaunched the brand, and now the brand is alive again.
That's
That's very
wonderful.
nice to see, right? So all the efforts that we put in as entrepreneurs is actually still alive because of all the
Right.
love that we got
They
from
paid off. They paid off. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's you running the business, at least it's your vision which is continuing to grow. And
absolutely
that
right.
is something which gives a satisfaction to a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, this was my idea. I made this happen.
And not only that, it's a brand marketer's dream, right? Imagine the amount of
Yes.
money that you would have to spend to get visibility like that for with a national audience. Right?
Right.
We were completely overwhelmed with the number of people. We had more
Yes.
than uh, you know s- uh, 6 lakh to 7 lakh visitors in a week to our website, and
Right.
organically, right? We were not doing any marketing at that time. That is completely unprecedented, right?
Yeah.
On Google searches, we were 4 times of what Mintra was,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
Mintra was running their end of season sale at that time.
Okay.
Right? In spite of that, we were 4 times the searches that Mintra was getting. So it
That's
was
amazing.
really overwhelming. At the same time,
That might have been surreal. I mean, completely surreal.
right? As a marketer, I was like, oh my God, this is the kind of visibility that can actually happen when you get on national
Right.
television and
And
when it goes
that is
viral.
where you realized how impactful these shows are, either to make or break your organization or a business.
Absolutely, right? So in that sense, Shark Tank actually has brought the conversation of entrepreneurship to the mainstream.
Right.
In
Right.
every dinner
Right.
table, you're watching the show and you're having this conversation in your household.
Yes, a
Entrepreneurship
lot
is
of
no
people
longer
do.
seen as
It's just a free marketing publicity stunt that a company is having, because someone or the other might be discussing your brand, and if you come across that brand somewhere, it just intrigues your mind. Maybe I have to see, I have to try what is it that we're talking about.
absolutely. And people now recognize how businesses are built as well, right? Now
Right,
they are
right,
hearing the stories straight from the founders, and they are
hmm,
actually seeing the products, which they are actually showcasing. It's
right.
a effectively it's a 10-minute advertisement that you're getting for free on national television. Of course, there is a qualification criteria to get there, but if you
Yes,
get there,
yes.
it's massive
But it
visibility for
is
you.
it is inculcating a very strong entrepreneurial sense in people where they might have not been, daring enough to start their own workspace or a startup or whatever idea they had back in their young days, or still in their young days. They might have something in their mind, but they were
Yeah.
too scared to start. But now they knew that there is some place or a platform which might help them jumpstart their career into something else entirely.
Absolutely. So now, even in colleges, if you look at it,
Yeah,
entrepreneurship,
yeah.
like starting up, is one accepted way of graduating from school. Otherwise,
Right,
unless you get
right,
placed, placement nahi hua, though it used to be a big, stigma associated with it. But now, if you tell them that, hey, I want to become an entrepreneur, there's a lot of support from your ecosystem around you and your peers
right,
as well, not just your
yeah,
family, right? So that is very heartening to see. I think there's a bright
right,
future for us in terms of, a country with a lot of entrepreneurs coming forward.
right. No, I hope that's the case. Uh, so anyway, it was wonderful having you, Ganesh. It was quite an enlightening and an endearing session for me, and I hope it's gonna be the same for the listeners and for the viewers also, especially the Shark Tank bit. I believe that will definitely inspire them to dare to dream. I believe that's the term.
Absolutely, man. More power to entrepreneurship in India.
Yes,
I
yes.
enjoyed this conversation. I hope the audience does too.
Right, right. Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you for engaging in a discussion with us. Thank you.
Super. Thanks a lot, Dhruv. Thanks a lot for having me, and take care. Please do visit Aurm.in. I'm an entrepreneur, always selling.
I did. I did today. I did. I did.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.